Welcome to the Founders Odyssey podcast. The journey of a founder is unlike any other. The chips are seemingly stacked against you as an entrepreneur, but the burning desire to revolutionize the world and leave a lasting impact is stronger now than ever with many founders. Our podcast looks to inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs to pursue their next great idea, educate them on how to make this impossibility a reality, and create a supportive group of entrepreneurs who are there for their fellow founders. Our podcast features only the highest performing entrepreneurs who have bootstrapped, raised funds, built companies, sold companies, and have experienced life-altering challenges and some significant triumphs. Join us on this journey with the Founders Odyssey podcast and listen in on this upcoming episode. Welcome to the Founders Odyssey podcast, where we help to equip founders with the proper education, inspiration, and support needed to create, maintain, and scale companies. In today's episode, we will discuss the reasons why we have developed this podcast and my personal story and journey to entrepreneurship. Firstly, I'd like to thank all the people who have been part of this journey so far, from my supportive family, my tenacious and motivating wife, and all of the mentors and friends who have contributed to my knowledge and deep experiences over the course of many years. Let's dive into it. For me, it all started at an early age. I had a burning desire to seek greater things, to constantly strive for more and ask, why not me? Coming from a small town in Alaska, I can remember our relationship as a family with money and with success was just different than the rest of the world. I still can remember the time where we would drive by houses that looked really nice, and then my dad would say, "Oh, I wish we had the money for that," or "maybe one day," or "Oh, we can never afford that." For me, I never truly bought into that. Who lives there was my question. What do they do, and how can I meet and learn from them? It was never a matter of if, it was only a matter of when. This mentality was a constant foundation to propel me forward, to always challenge myself above the competition, and always put myself into pressure situations that would cause me to grow. Whether it was physically, mentally, or relationally, this built the foundations of always striving for more and to be better. Playing sports played a major role in my life and shaped the personality that I have today. Competition, team, setting goals, working together, these are all part of the game I played and love so much, the game of basketball. My goal quickly became to play varsity as a freshman, win a state championship, play college basketball, which were all accomplished. This journey as an athlete was extremely regimented and became almost like a career. Woke up, went to study hall, had practice, lifted weights, had games, and repeated. With every year, the competition grew, and so did my desire to go play pro overseas. Little did I know, life had another turn. At an open gym I was playing, I stole the ball from an opponent, went up to dunk it, was undercut, fell and broke my wrist only a few months prior to my third year returning back to college, where I was anticipated to make a significant contribution to the team. With my wrist being broken and some of the important life decisions to be made, I opted to stop playing basketball for that college, heal up, and start switching my thoughts into business and something that I could feed my sense of competition, creativity, and begin dealing with people. That was sales. I cannot begin to tell you how much I enjoyed sales and providing the customer with the right fit solution to whatever they needed. I never thought of the negatives with sales, only how I could reach their desired results, which was ownership. At age 19, I joined the Chamber of Commerce and I started to be mentored by many of the members. During this time, I began selling cell phones and helping a company that was owned by a friend of mine in Portland that took digital picture frames and created the ability for owners to place their advertisements on these screens throughout the city of Portland for a membership fee. It was really quite an amazing business at the time. A network of businesses was built over that time and gave me my first taste of door to door business sales and marketing. To say I was hooked was an understatement. I wanted to know everything about business: payment processing, marketing, advertising, team building, legal formation, sales, understanding the psychology of why people buy, seasonal businesses, JV partnerships, raising capital, and much more. Going through this time of maturation and understanding partnerships, developing teams, and working together, I believe it was and still is one of the most important parts of building any successful business. Building trust, setting proper expectations, knowing your own flaws and personality strengths can help you as a founder make leaps and bounds to move forward in any partnership. After developing a knack for helping businesses with their marketing, understanding the concepts of building networks, and developing a deeper knowledge of leverage, I began to study social networks, applications, and diving into understanding the psychology of why we use apps and our instinctual nature to connect with others. Which brings me to this present day 2021. The Founders Journeys podcast was developed out of my own personal story and desire to give founders the tools early on to make sure they don't go down some of the paths I chose or any of our guests who share some of their experiences. As I said, it had always been my desire to understand more about apps and one day build an app that would impact the world. Well, that time came in 2021. My company, Growth Bounce, was consulted by a company out of Alaska to do SWOT analysis on a product they were proposing would be a valuable piece for the educational market in the US. After some time, we looked into the market and we laid out a road plan to build and scale this company. During this process, we began to better understand each other's personality strengths and flaws during the team building process. We began to source multiple teams to help us with ideation, development, and scaling phases of the company. Well, one of these teams was a startup studio that proposed to help us in many ways of building the company: legal, financial, raising capital, developing software, strategic connections, etc. I was extremely excited about the trajectory of this business and the ideas that had been developed. Well, once we settled on a name for the company, we set up legal paperwork. We were ready to start building the company. Positions for the company were agreed upon amongst the co-founders of the company, me being the CEO and my partner being the COO. During the development process, time went by, and we were following the advice of the startup studio team. We went through a detailed strategy canvas session, developed our pitch decks, wireframe, built our clickable prototype, and secured our first round of funding. All teams involved in developing this project couldn't be more excited in seeing this project to market. During the process of working with my co-founder and contractors, it became evident that we must correctly put our company's legal paperwork in order. Having proper board of directors elected, understanding the stock ownerships, and making sure our cap table was healthy in order for our next financial rounds to go as planned, and we will be able to share with our potential investors our product and team was well disciplined and organized. During this process, we actually grew untrusting of the contracted studio we hired after deadlines were not met, promises were not delivered, and the biggest was an ultimatum that was placed on our team to either give them a specific amount of equity we never agreed upon at the beginning of building the business together, or they would no longer work with us and we'd have to phase out. So, at that time, we elected to separate from this contractor and build our team internally, meaning hiring a CTO, chief product officer, chief marketing officer, legal counsel, and seeking other software development companies. As a company, we now had reached the point where we had completed the wireframes, clickable prototypes, concepted the company ideas. We also were speaking with multiple software companies to get competitive bids, and were ready to develop the software. Had everyone internally ready to take on our next round of funding, which we were proactively reaching out and setting up meetings with additional investors. After seeking counsel from many of our mentors and founder friends, it was advised to retain our own legal counsel, review ownership of the business, review the articles of incorporation paperwork, review ownership of the domain for your business, and make sure to develop your cap table as soon as possible. After review, our team was reminded the startup studio we had been advising from had incorporated our business, was the registered agent, our cap table wasn't set yet, only one share was given to our founders, company bylaws had not been created, the board of directors were not officially named, and they had ownership of our company's domain. This felt wrong to me in so many ways. As a founder of our own company, we didn't even have ownership of our domain, I asked. Well, keep in mind the company needed its next round of funding and was set to meet with our lead investor for a potential follow up round of 350K. During this meeting, we came prepared. We had our CFO develop a complete analysis of customer acquisition cost, lifetime value of the customer, financial projections through our current business model. Additionally, we had our CPO speak about product advancements, our COO speak about supply chain management, and I spoke of the company vision and our current legal status of how we were in the process of moving the company to a Delaware state corporation, creating our cap table, allocating the shares properly to our founders and the current investor we were meeting with. After this meeting, this studio, who additionally had formed a partnership with our investor, took it upon himself to take down our website, change all of the passwords to our most important communication channels, for example, emails, Slack, Figma, our Webflow website, changed our names on the incorporation paperwork without a proper meeting, and then threatened to put our team into litigation. All of this happened within one day. I had interviews lined up for the next day and an important pitch set up with an interested VC firm out of San Francisco. I could not believe what had just happened. During this time, I felt like I had literally lost a family member. Like, seriously, someone died. I can't tell you the sorrow that I felt. 1 year of my life gone in an instant, in a day. I was locked out. I couldn't get into anything. I couldn't talk to any of the people, vendors, anyone. The anticipation of building this dream was literally gone, taken. So a few months goes by, and I ask myself, what did I learn from this experience and what should I do about it? Well, the thought came into my mind, I need to stand firm with my fellow founders and help them develop an understanding of how important it is to know who you're working with, to create proper legal structure, and to provide them with as many tools and resources possible so this would never happen to anybody again and their businesses can flourish. A friend and mentor founder of mine, Jeff Hoffman, founder of Priceline.com, always tells a story of how he was sitting in his living room watching the news, and the lady who was interviewing some other people who were about to be evicted from their house because they hadn't paid their rent. Jeff asked himself, well, why doesn't anybody do something about that? Why don't they do something about that? He asked. Well, when he asked this question, he realized that there are no they. There is only you now. So, what did he do? He took it upon himself, went to the bank, grabbed some money, ran it down to the house for these ladies, and kept them from being evicted and helped them pay their rent for the next 6 months. This is a great story, which is exactly what I'm doing here. This is why this podcast and community exists. I said, why not me and why not now? I have all the contacts in the world, and I know some of the brightest entrepreneurs on the planet. Let's just create a resource center for them to inspire, educate, and create a support system for current and future founders. Once again, I hope this has been very helpful for you today to get a better understanding of why we have created this podcast, where we're going, and how we will do this. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to meeting you on the next podcast. Once again, this has been the Founders Odyssey podcast, where we create content to inspire, educate, and support the next generation of founders.